The void of space was silent, almost reverent. As the small human salvage ship Aurora's Light drifted past the remnants of a shattered star system, its sensors scanned every fragment of metal and ice, searching for something forgotten. Cale Arden, the ship's chief engineer and captain, stood at the control console, eyes fixed on the readings. For years he had heard legends about the Leviathan, a starship so immense that it had once dominated entire battle fleets. Many said it was a myth, a tale of fear and awe, told 2 new generations of spacefarers. But Cale had seen signs, hints in ancient star charts, fragments of transmissions, and strange gravitational disturbances. Now the Leviathan's signal was faint but unmistakable. A low hum vibrated through the Aurora's Light as Cale guided the ship closer. It was massive, far larger than any human vessel had ever approached. Its hull, though scarred and dented by time and cosmic storms, shimmered faintly as if aware of the human presence. Cale felt a shiver of excitement and a pang of fear. No one had come near the Leviathan for thousands of years. Many who had tried never returned. "Cale," said Mira, the ship's navigation officer. Her voice tight with tension. "The readings are off the charts. I've never seen energy patterns like this in my life. Something is still alive inside." Cale nodded slowly, his fingers tracing the outline of the starship on the holographic display. "Alive or dormant, we won't know until we get closer. Prepare the boarding drones, but nothing enters the main hull until I say so. We don't want to trigger anything accidentally." The Aurora's Light drifted closer, the crew holding their collective breath. The Leviathan's immense size was breathtaking, casting a shadow over the smaller ship. Cale imagined what it must have been like when the ship was at full power, engines roaring, cannons blazing. Whole fleets had fallen to this single giant. And yet here it was, silent, as if time itself had chosen to forget it. After hours of careful maneuvering, the crew found an entrance hatch large enough for human passage. Cale suited up, checking his equipment for the last time. The suit was reinforced to withstand extreme cold radiation, and pressured, but nothing could prepare him for the awe he felt as he floated toward the Leviathan's hull. "Remember," Cale said to Mira over the comlink, "we are guests here. One wrong move, and we could wake something we cannot control. Keep the drones ready, but don't engage unless I signal. Understood?" "Understood," Myra replied, her voice steady but betraying a hint of fear. Cale's boots touched the surface of the Leviathan, and immediately a strange vibration ran through the metal. It was almost imperceptible at first, like the heartbeat of a creature too enormous to see. He placed his hand against the hull, and a low hum responded. The ship was alive in a sense, not in the way humans were, but in the way a mountain might feel the wind passing over it, sensing every movement around it as the team entered the airlock and crossed into the interior. The Leviathan's true size became apparent. Endless corridors stretched into darkness, lined with panels that flickered faintly like the last memories of a dream. Strange glyphs and symbols, worn and faded, adorned the walls. Cale traced them with his gloved hand, feeling a connection to a time far before humanity had even reached the stars. This is incredible," whispered Terran, the ship's historian, his voice echoing in the vast chamber. "It's like stepping into the past. The technology. It's centuries ahead of anything we know. How did humans even make something like this?" Cale shook his head. "We didn't, not us. This was made by someone else, someone who left a part of themselves behind. And maybe they were trying to hide it." The team moved carefully, every footstep loud in the vast emptiness. As they descended deeper into the ship, the hum of the Leviathan grew stronger. Sensors began to fluctuate, showing bursts of energy that had no obvious source. Cale paused in front of a massive central chamber. The door was enormous, etched with symbols that seemed to shift when he looked away. A low vibration came from within, almost like a pulse. "This is it," Cale said softly, his voice filled with awe. "The core. This is where the heart of the Leviathan sleeps." The air was thick with tension as the crew prepared to enter. Cale's hand hovered over the control panel to open the massive doors. "Stay close," he warned. "We don't know what happens if we awaken it fully." We're explorers, not invaders. Slowly, the doors hissed open, revealing the core chamber. Inside was a massive energy matrix, floating and glowing faintly, surrounded by hovering conduits and panels. It pulsed with life, ancient and immense. Kale's breath caught in his throat. The sheer scale of it made the entire chamber feel alive, as if the Leviathan itself was aware of their presence. Mira whispered, "It's beautiful and terrifying." Kale stepped closer, drawn by curiosity and instinct. Every instinct in his body screamed caution, but every part of his mind urged him to understand. Slowly, carefully, he reached out and touched the energy matrix. The moment his fingers made contact, the Leviathan responded. A surge of light flooded the chamber, washing over the walls and corridors. Panels flickered, lights danced, and a low hum turned into a deep, resonant tone. The ship vibrated, not violently, but with unmistakable life. The Leviathan had awakened not fully, but enough to know that someone had touched its core. "Kale," Mira shouted. "Step back." We don't know what it, but Kale could not move. A voice, not spoken aloud, but felt directly in his mind, resonated through him. It was deep, calm, and ancient, human. "You awaken what has slept for millennia." "Why?" Kale's heart pounded. The voice was not hostile, but it carried weight beyond understanding. He forced himself to speak, keeping his tone steady. We seek knowledge. We seek understanding. We mean no harm." There was a long pause. Then the hum of the Leviathan shifted, almost like a sigh. "Curiosity. It has brought you here. Few have dared. You will see, human. You may not understand what you awaken, but the touch is acknowledged." The crew exchanged nervous glances, their fear mingling with awe. Kale slowly withdrew his hand, but the energy matrix continued to pulse gently, responding to his presence. The Leviathan was awake, but calm. For now, Kale took a deep breath and turned to the crew. "We've done it," he said, voice trembling slightly. "We've awakened the Leviathan, but this is only the beginning. We have no idea what comes next. This ship, it's not just a machine. It's alive in a way that we've never encountered, and it's responding to me." Terran stepped forward, awe still in his eyes. "Do you think it knows?" "US. Humanity." Kale shook his head slowly. "I don't know. But whatever it feels, it's ancient. It's powerful. And somehow, it listened to a human. That has to mean something." As the crew explored the chamber, documenting every detail, Kale felt a strange sense of connection. The Leviathan's hum was no longer intimidate. It was curious, probing, almost tentative. And somewhere deep in his chest, Kale felt a spark of destiny. He had awakened something beyond comprehension. And now, humanity's place in this ancient story had begun. Outside, the void of space remained silent. But within the Leviathan, a new energy flowed, and a giant that had slept for millennia had begun to stir. A human had touched its core, and the galaxy would never be the same. The night passed slowly, each crew member taking turns observing the core, documenting the pulsing energy. Kale remained closest, almost entranced, feeling as if the Leviathan was learning about him as much as he was learning about it. For the first time in his life, he understood what explorers of the past had felt when discovering the unknown. Fear and the humbling weight of history. And so, as the distant stars blinked silently in the void, the Titanic Starship slept no longer. The void beyond the Leviathan shimmered with distant stars, calm but deceptive. While the Titanic Starship had begun to awaken, the galaxy itself was not idle. Kale Ardeen stood in the central chamber, his gaze fixed on the core. The hum of energy pulsed steadily, like a heartbeat, responding to his presence. The Leviathan had grown more aware in the weeks since their arrival. It no longer just observed the humans, it communicated subtly, guiding them, sharing glimpses of knowledge, and anticipating questions before they were asked. Mira approached him, carrying a datapad filled with sensor readings. "Kale," she said, voice tense, "we're picking up massive energy surges near the edge of this system. Something is approaching a fleet, but unlike anything we've seen before." Kale's brow furrowed. Enemy? Mira shook her head. We can't tell yet. But the energy signatures, they're ancient. Maybe even older than the Leviathan itself. Kale turned to the crew, determination sharpening his features. We've awakened the Leviathan. Yes. But now it's time to see if humanity can prove itself worthy. Everyone, prepare for a potential engagement. This is why we were chosen. Or perhaps why the Leviathan chose to awaken now. The crew moved quickly, securing equipment, running diagnostics, and preparing defensive systems. Though the Leviathan was massive and powerful, Kale knew that understanding the ship's systems was just as crucial as its firepower. The Titanic Starship could annihilate fleets, but it required guidance, intuition, and decision-making that no machine alone could provide. As they moved to the observation deck, first ships appeared on the sensors. Shadows against the starfield, their shapes enormous and unfamiliar, moving with deliberate speed. The energy signatures pulsed like heartbeat echoes advanced technology. Yes, but cold and precise. Lacking the subtlety Kale had come to respect in the Leviathan. They're coming for us, Terran said quietly. And they won't understand hesitation or mercy. Kale nodded, feeling the Leviathan's subtle response beneath his feet. The ship hummed, a low vibration, almost like it was thinking, weighing possibilities. Kale reached out with his mind, not literally, but in connection with the pulse of the Leviathan. We face them together, he thought, projecting calm focus. We defend, we adapt, we survive. The response was almost immediate. The core pulsed brighter, circuits aligning, turrets and energy emitters coming online in synchronization. The Leviathan recognized strategy, intuition, and the human spark of courage. Kale realized that the ship was not just following orders, it was learning from him, anticipating moves, preparing to act in ways even he had not imagined. As the first alien vessel appeared on the horizon, a sleek craft bristling with weaponry, Kale gave the order. Initiate shields. Prepare the energy matrix for defensive deployment. The Leviathan responded instantly. Fields of light shimmered along the hull, energy conduits glowing, and a low vibration coursed through the corridors. The ship was alive, and it understood the threat. The alien vessel fired first. A blast of concentrated energy aimed directly at the Leviathan. The ship absorbed it, redirecting the force harmlessly into space. While Kale guided countermeasures, "This is it," Kale said under his breath. "Our first real test." The alien fleet advanced, sleek ships moving in formation. But the Leviathan's responses were precise, almost preemptive. Turrets extended, energy beams flared, and the massive ship moved with grace despite its size. Kale noticed something extraordinary. The Leviathan wasn't just reacting, it was learning in real time. Each maneuver was an experiment, each countermeasure a test of efficiency. It was as if the ship could predict what the enemy would do next. The battle raged in the silent void. Explosions of light painted the darkness, and shockwaves rippled across nearby asteroids. The alien fleet was powerful, but it lacked creativity. It moved with perfect logic, following patterns designed for conquest, not for unpredictability. Kale and the Leviathan, however, had something the machines could not calculate: intuition. The ship's awareness, combined with human judgment, allowing them to anticipate moves, avoid traps, and strike where the enemy least expected. Mira shouted from her console, "Kale, they're trying to flank us. If we don't act fast, they'll hit the energy matrix." Kale's mind raced. Leviathan, adjust vector. Focus pulse on lateral shields. The ship responded instantly, energy rippling across its hull, absorbing and dispersing the enemy's attack. Then, guided by Kale's intuition, it countered with precision strikes, disabling several vessels without destroying them completely. Humanity's hallmark, Kale realized, was not just survival, it was ingenuity and restraint. Tane watched in awe. No one else could do this. We're seeing the Leviathan, cooperating with a human mind. It's remarkable. Ours passed in the blink of an eye. The alien fleet, frustrated and disoriented, began to retreat, unable to predict the Leviathan's coordinated responses. Kale allowed himself a small smile. Humanity had prevailed, not through brute force alone, but through collaboration, courage, and understanding the very qualities that the Leviathan had recognized when he first touched its core, as the last alien vessel fled into the void. The Leviathan's hum returned to its steady, gentle rhythm. Kale stood in the core chamber, feeling the pulse beneath his feet. It was a heartbeat of ancient power, now aligned with human determination. "We did it," Mira said softly, awe and relief mingling in her voice. "We actually did it." Kale shook his head, his expression serious. "We didn't just survive. We proved something. That humanity, fragile as it may seem, can guide, protect, and make choices even in the face of unimaginable power. The Leviathan. It trusts us now." For days after the battle, the crew explored more of the Leviathan. The ship seemed to reward their curiosity, guiding them to chambers filled with knowledge, maps of distant galaxies, and blueprints of technologies long forgotten. Kale realized that the Leviathan was not just a weapon, it was a repository of intelligence, a living archive that could shape the future of humanity. One evening, Kale returned to the core chamber alone. He placed his hand once again on the energy matrix. The hum pulsed warmly beneath his fingertips, a gentle acknowledgement of connection. A voice resonated in his mind, calm and measured, human. "Your kind has proven worthy. You adapt, learn, and choose wisely. The galaxy is vast, full of threats and opportunities. Together, we will face them." Kale nodded, a sense of purpose filling him. "We will. Humanity will rise to meet every challenge, and together, we will protect the future." He could feel the Leviathan responding, energy rippling through corridors and chambers, systems aligning with his intent. It was not just a ship anymore, it was a partner, a guardian, force that could amplify the human spirit across the stars. The crew gathered in the observation deck, looking out at the galaxy beyond. Countless stars stretched into infinity, planets glimmering in distant light. For the first time, they felt hope not just for themselves, but for all of humanity. The Leviathan had awakened, yes, but so had the potential of human courage, ingenuity, and determination. Kale turned to the crew, his voice strong and steady. "We are the first to touch the heart of the Leviathan. And we are the first to prove that humans can wield power responsibly, with wisdom, courage, and creativity. We have a chance to guide not only this ship, but the future of the galaxy." Mira smiled, eyes shining. "It feels, right? Like we belong here, like this is our destiny," Terran added quietly, "and the Leviathan. It has chosen us. Not just as masters, but as partners. It's teaching us, learning with us. Together, we are stronger than anything the galaxy can throw at us." Kale placed his hand one final time on the core for that day, feeling the warmth, the energy, and the connection. "Then let's begin," he said softly, a promise to the ship, the crew, and the stars themselves. As the days turned into weeks, the Leviathan and its human crew prepared for the challenges ahead. Ancient fleets, cosmic anomalies, and forgotten enemies might rise again, but humanity now had the Titanic Starship at its side, not as a tool of war alone, but as a living testament to courage, ingenuity, and the unyielding spirit of a species that could touch the core of an ancient giant and awaken it to hope, and somewhere deep in the heart of the Leviathan, energy pulsed gently, alive and aware. A human had awakened it, guided it, and proven that even in the vastness of the cosmos, the human spirit could shine brighter than any star. The Titanic Starship, once dormant for millennia, now sailed not as a relic, but as a beacon, a monument to the enduring power, creativity, and courage of humanity. The galaxy had always been full of mysteries, but none as strange as the Etherean. Floating silently in the orbit of a gray, lifeless planet, the starship looked both ancient and impossibly advanced. Its smooth, black surface reflected starlight, like liquid metal, and strange symbols glimmered faintly across its hull, as if alive. No engineer, no matter how skilled, had ever been able to make it work. Some said it was a puzzle no one could solve. Others whispered that the ship was alive in ways no mind could understand. Jalen. Mira stood on the observation deck of the orbital station, staring at the enormous vessel. Unlike most humans, he didn't feel fear or doubt. He felt curiosity. It heard the stories. Hundreds of engineers from different worlds had tried to interface with the ship. They had run simulations, connected their best technology, even attempted direct neural links. Every single attempt ended the same way: failure. The ship remained silent, unyielding, and impossible. Some had left, calling it a waste of time. Others had vanished entirely, refusing to admit defeat. Yalan was different. He had spent his life repairing ancient machines, small and large. He knew how systems failed, how to read patterns, and more importantly, he trusted his intuition. While other engineers relied purely on data and protocols, he listened to machines, to environments, and sometimes he even felt their intentions. That was why he had been chosen. The Galactic Council had grown desperate, and when they saw Jalen's name on the list of independent human engineers, they offered him the chance no one else had, to try, as he floated in his zero-gravity suit. Toward the docking bay, he could see the enormity of the Ethereum more clearly. The bay was cavernous, far larger than any station he had ever worked in. Its walls seemed to hum faintly, vibrating under his feet, though no engines were running. Lights along the corridors flickered gently, responding, perhaps to his presence. Yalan stepped forward, carrying only a small toolkit in his curiosity. No complex interface devices, no scanners, just his hands and his mind. "Are you sure about this, Yalan?" asked Captain Riven, the station commander. She floated beside him, eyes wide as she took in the ship. "Everyone else failed. Every system we have shows the ship is. Rejecting attempts." "Could I know?" Yalan interrupted, a small smile on his face. But they didn't listen. They only pushed and forced. "I'm going to try something different." He paused at the entrance of the ship, fingers hovering over the sleek metal frame. Something in him, a quiet voice, told him to proceed slowly, to observe, and to wait for the ship to speak first. He didn't know why, but it felt right. The doors of the Ethereum opened without sound. Yalan stepped inside and felt a rush of airless space. The interior was unlike any engineering bay he had seen. It was organic in structure, with smooth surfaces that curved like bones or the inside of a giant shell. Panels of alien material glowed softly underfoot, lighting a path forward. The hum grew louder, almost as if the ship were breathing. Yalan froze. This was no ordinary machine. He walked slowly, touching the walls lightly. They felt warm, responsive, almost aware. It sent shivers down his spine. In the center of the main chamber, a circular platform rose from the floor. Embedded in it was a core, pulsating faintly with blue light. This, he guessed, was the heart of the Ethereum. No engineer had been able to reach it safely before. Yalan knelt, studying the core. He noticed subtle vibrations, almost like a heartbeat, but irregular. It wasn't following any pattern a computer could understand. He placed his hand lightly on the surface. The light pulsed brighter. He pulled back slightly, unsure if it was a warning. Then, to his astonishment, the hum shifted. It became coherent. A voice spoke, not through speakers, not through translation devices, directly inside his mind. Clear, calm, and strange, like someone had reached across the universe and whispered only to him. "Human, you are here." Yalan froze, heart pounding. The voice was not mechanical. It had personality, intent, even curiosity. No other species had ever heard it speak. Engineers had failed because they tried to force answers. They'd spoken to it as a machine. But now, the ship was speaking to him. I am Yalan Mira," he said slowly. "I'm here to understand you." The ship hummed, and its surface rippled faintly under his hand. "Understand? Yes, I have waited. Require a human." Jalen's eyes widened. "Require me?" "Yes, none other can connect. None else can read me as you do. I cannot awaken fully without your touch." The enormity of the moment hit him. All the stories of failure, all the lost engineers. All the whispers of a machine that no mind could master it had been waiting for a human. A human alone could finally unlock what no alien mind could. Yalan took a deep breath. He felt a mix of awe and responsibility. He had worked on old starships, failing engines, and forgotten satellites. He had repaired machines that had lain silent for decades. But this was beyond anything he had ever imagined. This was alive, aware, and asking for his help. He decided to speak differently this time. Not commands, not protocols. Just words that reflected thought, intention, and curiosity. "What do you want me to do?" The ship pulsed brighter. "I need trust, observation, patience. Only then can we move together." Yalan nodded. He began to walk along the curved corridors, his hands lightly touching the walls, feeling the hum, the warmth, the subtle responses. He noticed small changes panels lighting as he approached, doors opening before he reached them. The ship was learning about him, reacting to his presence. He moved carefully, studying every ripple, every flicker, every vibration. Hours passed, or maybe days. Time felt different inside the Etherean. Yalan rested only briefly, observing patterns, listening to the soft hums that now seemed almost like words. He realized the ship had memory. It remembered every engineer who had failed, every command that had been forced upon it. But it did not hold anger only, disappointment perhaps that no mind had yet been ready. Then finally, the core pulsed strongly, and the voice came again. "Human, you are patient. You see me. Others." "They did not. You may proceed." Yalan approached the core carefully, kneeling before it. He placed both hands lightly on the surface. The light spread up his arms like warmth through his veins, and his mind filled with images, star systems, ships, energy flows he could barely comprehend. It was overwhelming, but he did not pull back. He breathed steadily, allowing the information to flow, letting intuition guide him. "This is incredible," he whispered. "I can feel your systems, your purpose, your potential." "Yes," the ship responded. "Together, we can awaken. Others cannot." For the first time in centuries, the Etherean began to shift. Panels retracted, corridors opened, and systems that had never moved before started to respond. Yalan guided them gently, listening as the ship adjusted. It was not obeying him blindly. It was responding, interacting, testing, and learning. And he, in turn, responded to it not as a tool, not as a protocol, but as a human, trusting instinct, intuition, and understanding. By the time the station crew returned to observe, Yalan was still inside, moving effortlessly among the glowing corridors. Lights pulsed in sync with his movements, and the hum of the ship was no longer random. It sang softly, a song of awakening. For the first time, humans had not only touched the impossible, they had been chosen by it. Outside the observation bay, Captain Riven stared in disbelief. "It's alive," she whispered. Jalen emerged finally, removing his helmet. Sweat and awe mixed on his face. "Alive," he repeated, "and it wanted a human all along." No one spoke for a long moment. The implications were staggering. The Etherean, a starship no mind could control, no technology could awaken. It finally recognized the value of human creativity, intuition, and empathy. The silent expanse of space, human had succeeded where all others had failed, and the galaxy would never be the same again.